Hey there, everyone. Welcome. It's Lotus with Art of Sacred Embodiment. So, today I want to talk about maturity. I've been thinking a lot about maturity, the different realms in which we can explore and cultivate greater maturity. Been thinking about this a lot for myself at this stage and phase in my evolution, and looking out into the collective and just recognizing different interactions, different relationships that I have, and, really trying to look through that lens of relational intimacy, which really is one of the overarching umbrellas of all the work that I do, because we can come into relationship with everything, right? I can be in relationship with this hair tie for my hair if I wanted to be, because it's coming present, right? It's really seeing what is there. It's becoming connected to the nuances and the details. And so when I work with relational intimacy, we work with it with all of life, and that actually starts first within, like everything, begin within. There is a reason why that tenet has been one of the primary spiritual tenets for thousands of years, because beginning within, going within, know thyself, is a foundation for how we then come into relationship with the rest of life. So the way that I look at our maturity or our different levels of intelligence is we've got the material world, IQ, right? So how do I navigate the material world? What is my intelligence around the 3D matrix, so to speak? And then there's, intellectual intelligence, which is what most of us, I think of, what is your intelligence IQ? What is that quotient? Um, I like, what is your emotional intelligence quotient? What is your spiritual intelligence quotient? And what is your somatic or embodied intelligence quotients? Because really these are all different realms of us, right? And they hold different levels of frequency, different subtle levels of consciousness. And when we're able to, sort of map this out, I believe that we get a better overall sense of, am I functioning in a balanced and harmonious way? Am I operating in the world within my relationships, within my own sacred relationship with self, which how I treat myself, how I live moment to moment? Am I doing so in harmony, with respect, with honor, with love? Am I doing it absent-mindedly, callously? We treat ourselves how we treat others. So the better I can treat myself, the better I will treat others. Historically, we've really looked at, I think, our maturity as twofold. Our intellectual quotient. How smart am I, right? And usually this intelligence, the intellectual intelligence, is how well do I navigate the physical realm, the linear realm, the material plane. How smart am I? How much have I studied? How well does my left brain operate? Logically, rationally, right? It's the masculine part of us, and it holds great necessity, and we need that. So we've grown really adept to that intelligence, and that has been we've been educated and conditioned into that being the pretty much the only intelligence until, probably this last decade. So then there's the material plane, right? How do I navigate the world? How is my job? What's my education? Can I make enough money to support myself? Am I prepared for retirement? How do I support my family? Have I manifested, right? Let's say the American dream, right? The American dream is sort of the epitome of material world 3D level IQ. And that again is a very masculine perspective. It's a very masculine way of operating because it is the physical, material, external realm. So what I'm going to talk about today, though, primarily is our emotional IQ, our spiritual IQ, and our embodied IQ. Maybe I'm going to get to all of them. We'll see. But these are the realms of the feminine. These are the realms of what is subtle and what requires us to actually soften our awareness. It requires us to be more deeply in touch in our inner landscape, in the inner realms of our being, in the places where we don't normally look unless we're really kind of guided to do that or we're naturally inclined, because conditioning calls us to look outside ourselves. So within these inner realms, this is where our shadow work is done. So for years, shadow work was a foundation of all the work that I did with people, from the deep, dark feminine perspective, from the inner feminine perspective. And working with the shadow enables us to reveal to ourselves what we may not always see, and then learn how to navigate that realm and increase our intelligence. So from my perspective, and from the way I'm going to talk about this, is that the shadow realms operate, or the shadow operates in our emotional realm, in our physical embodied, physical body realm, and in our spiritual realm. And once we look and really access that sacred shadow, bring honor into that sacred shadow, integrate and heal the stories of the sacred shadow, that's when we start to fall into self-love. That's when we come home to the self, and that's where our emotional maturity can actually begin to either grow, if it has not grown very much, or expand and really flourish. So when we look at this from, in embodied, let's look at the embodiment IQ. How well am I connected to my body? Am I living in my body? Or Am I riding the fire and air of the masculine that's taking me out of my body a lot through, exploring activities, experiences outside of me, which have their value. But we've lived in excess of that. And so, as I've said many times, most of us are not living embodied. We aren't actually in our body, connected to our soul presence. So how do we know when we're living embodied? Well, one of the ways that we know is we have greater sensitivity to our physical body. We know what we're feeling, and we're able to listen and adjust to basics. When I first went into AA, it's how, hungry, angry, lonely, or tired are you? Can you read those very physical signs? One of those signs is of the emotion. How angry am I? Am I lonely? That's kind of a spiritual soul presence. Hungry. Can I feel when I'm hungry? And how do I relate to it, right? Do I nourish myself when I'm hungry, or do I starve myself when I'm hungry? Or do I gorge and overeat until I'm stuffed because I haven't read the messages and the intelligence of my body saying, whoa, we've had enough. There, now we're good. And then we keep overriding and overriding the innate wisdom of our physical body. And then we have, the spiritual intelligence, which we kind of touched on. But let's say, for instance, early developmental stages of our spiritual growth is that naturally we're drawn to big experiences, right? We're drawn to techniques and how can I, and I've talked about this before, how, what are those things that I can learn? I want to learn how to channel. I want to learn how to open my third eye, right? Right. So there's this way that in the early stages, the wonders of it all is opening up, and that's awesome. And that's an important phase and stage. And in some ways, it kind of keeps us interested, right? It keeps us moving along. But then as we continue to move into, let's just say, more expanded intelligence, we start to recognize that, oh, my spirituality is about connecting inward. It's about accessing deeper knowledge and knowing of my intuition, connecting with the subtleties of my soul and my soul guidance that's always communicating, right? Connecting with the qualities of the divine. So having that yearning to access deeper peace, more harmony, joy, love, the big L, love, and to form a relationship of love that is unifying all areas of life, coming into that relational intelligence or relational intimacy with all of life rather than seeking out divisions, right? So the world in its polarity, which is natural for the physical realm, which has been, right, up until where we're going in the future. But it's been really about us and them, right? Me and you, inner, outer, up, down, right, wrong, good, bad. And that's been part of our human development of learning morals and values, ethics, right? learning how to navigate boundaries. So then the emotional intelligence brings us in, the emotional IQ invites us in to start really understanding, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? And how do I resolve whatever is going on in here? How do I understand it more? And in early stages, that may be, creating, at first it might be speaking your truth, right? That's part of that stage. It might be setting boundaries. That's part of that stage. And I'm not saying that boundaries don't happen as we continue to expand, but there's a way in which the boundaries are set, and there's nuances in that I'm not going to go into right now, as well as speaking our truth. There are ways that in our early stages we need to perhaps express ourselves in very clear, direct ways because perhaps we were never allowed to. And then or we needed to attribute accountability outside of ourselves to where maybe accountability was never taken. And we need to be able to say, hey, this wasn't okay when you did this, when you behaved in this way, right? So that's that early stage. And then as we move through deeper connection, more healing, connecting in more expanded awareness, the emotional intelligence shifts, which that's right, there's next here. So I do want to keep this fairly short, because each of these are important. So maybe I'll do like a whole series on all of these, because each of them are super important. And I guess what I'm getting at is that from an embodiment IQ, okay, we are deeply complex beings. We are not simple. We are not black and white in here. And we are cyclical. We spiral. Our consciousness spirals through greater awareness and more contracted awareness. And the information and how we navigate the subtleties of the embodied IQ is a lifetime of maturing. And as these come into a more grounded, a more, what is the word? A more integrated and held with integrity, then our spiritual maturity grows. Because once we let go of all of the things that we want to access from outside of us and start bringing our attention inside of us, accessing our own inner peace by learning how to harness the thought processes without using guided techniques. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with guided techniques. I offer guided techniques as well. However, there comes a point where we begin to not need these accessories from outside of us, and we learn how to navigate and self-source from within our soul presence, within our connection with the divine, with God, with life, right? So we're forming a relationship in all of these very nuanced ways. And this is part of relational intimacy, because it is us getting up close and personal, intimate with the realm of my emotions. And then I can be up close and personal with your emotions and see you more clearly, hold space for you more clearly, allow you your experience, and know you're gonna rock it out and grow and flourish from having your experience, right? I don't have to rescue, or I don't have to shut you out because I can't handle your experience, your emotions. It becomes the same even with understanding our embodiment process. Some people don't want to be in their body because it's uncomfortable, because there are too many things that are unresolved that have caused pains and aches, and or we use our right and true body's processes in ways that are destructive, in ways that aren't really healthy or healing for us, in ways that don't really support us, and then we don't feel really good living in our body, right? And then there's the spiritual, continuing to do that deeper work, continuing to no longer be only in outward focused, external focused, my will run riot, so to speak. And instead, I start to come into a greater level of humbleness. Like, maybe I don't know what's really best for me. Maybe if I listen within and really align myself with my deeper truths and not my conditioning, then we start moving into more expanded ways and more spiritual intelligence grows for us. So I'm going to probably do maybe a little bit more on each of these, because this is my work, right? I am all about the subtleties. I am an embodiment guide. So part of being an embodiment guide means that my intelligence quotient on most of these levels is pretty high, and always always evolving and always expanding, just like all of us. And for me personally, my material plane intelligence quotient is not real great. It's not super great. So that level of my maturity, right? So this is what we're really talking about. My weak spot is my material plane maturity, and my responsibility for that, right? As a sovereign being working from the awareness of knowing that I have to have maturity in all these realms. I have to be willing to continually grow and evolve, get more deeply connected and understanding, and integrate all of life. I can't just hang out in the spiritual realms forever, right? I did that for a while, for quite a while, but that was part of my path and my training, right? That was part of my growth to be able to do the work that I do. Same with the deeper inner realms, same with the physical body, embodied sensory experience realms. I came into this world doing that. Most highly sensitive people come into this world with a deep level of somatic intelligence. But if we aren't aware that that's actually a wisdom that is trying to teach us, then, we sort of find ways to bypass it when actually it's a superpower. So, so anyway, yeah, I think I'm going to do another couple videos on this. So my whole point of this is I wanted to kind of like start bridging this topic through relational intimacy, understanding that part of our spiritual evolution is maturing. It's all about leaving our teenager, right? Bringing our teenager and growing up, glowing up, as like the new saying is, right? Glowing that up. Because really, as a whole, in our developed countries, for sure, humanity operates from a teenage level of maturity. Part of it is because we've been conditioned to be so externally focused, and that is only getting more and more with a lot of the AI and where technology is going. And if we're not dialed in here, it's going to be really hard to make the right and true choices for your personal journey. Because we will be taken out energetically more and more and more. And the spiritual realm, the spiritual guidance is the best way to actually remedy this is to learn these other IQs. Learn these other relational IQs, because the material world kind of disconnects us more and more from truly being connected in deeper relationships and being connected within ourselves first. So I'll touch on that in one of the next ones. So anyway, I'm kind of into this topic right now, and I hope that you can feel, sense, know whatever realm you're operating in, wherever your IQ is most heightened, that you can glean that this is actually a really important, it's an important phase in our journey, and it's also an important topic for our collective experience as human beings on this planet. All right. Blessings.